please welcome Jeff Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and mute this one to make sure that we don't have any interference. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay. Awesome. Am I being picked up, Lisa, online as far as audio goes? All right. I'm really excited to be with you guys today. One other thing that I get to do currently is I'm chair for the Western Region Symposium. And one of the things that we've done is we've challenged every chapter to put together a video to invite providers out to the Western Region Symposium, which happens when? January. That's good. Where does it happen at? Vegas, right? How cool is that? And I don't know if you guys have seen the pricing, but if you're a provider, and that provider, when we say provider, also includes payer. So if you're a payer in the room, yay. You are eligible for great discounts, and especially if you go online and register now. Also, through your chapter president, so chapter president, do you want to raise your hand again? Yes, there she is. She has a special code for any provider who would like to get a full ride discount to go there. And it is, again, super affordable. I've checked the prices from Boise down to Vegas. It's affordable, right? Airfare. And then the rates are only $105 a night as far as the rooms go. And we're staying at the Paris. How great is that? So just a couple of things that you guys can know about that. There will be a puppy corral. How cool is that? It's a Western theme, right? But who doesn't need a puppy every once in a while just to calm down? There's also going to be donkeys serving beer on their backs. This is going to be awesome. Above and most important is the education's phenomenal. You should see some of the keynotes that are already lined up. So we want you to be there. We want you to come out, and we want you to encourage those providers who don't know about it to learn more. And so we are going to be helping you guys tonight put together a video. Yeah, isn't that going to be fun? So come prepared to be filmed a little bit tonight when we're on the boat. Anything else I need to say on that? Are we good, Bill? All right, very good. Well, again, super excited to be here, and especially to talk about this. I just wanted to share the magic of leadership is so powerful that when it's not present, some crazy things can happen. Myself, personally, I love CrossFit. I usually drop in wherever I'm at to go through a session. I happen to have done a CrossFit session, and for some reason, I was wearing a vest, and if you've ever done a box jump, they can be pretty challenging on their own. But this vest was heavy. After like 100 box jumps, I missed. And what happens when you miss on a box jump? Anybody? Yeah, you shred your shin. So I did. I happened to shred my shin. I did a really bang-up job. This is actually after it's healed a little bit. But shortly after I did this box jump and shredded my shin, I was out presenting. I won't say where. But I was presenting, and every time I took a step, so if I stepped at all, my leg just ached right in the middle of the presentation. I didn't think that was good, but the benefit of being at HFMA is there's usually someone with a medical background. So I went out after, and I said, hey, should I go get this looked at? And I pulled up my leg, and their eyes get really big, and they're like, yeah, you need to go today. So I went ahead, and I headed over to the urgent care. I made an appointment quickly. They said they could see me. It was great. I got there. The lady also did CrossFit that checked me in, so that was nice. Had a great conversation with her, went back. The doctor's like, ooh, this is really bad. They gave me a shot. They also put some ointment on it. And then they gave me an antibiotic that I had to pick up. On my way out, I was, thank you guys were great, right? And then I remembered I have a $20 copay. So I went ahead and I went back to the desk and I said, hey, can I go ahead and make my $20 copay? Because I live far away from where I was at, right? And they said, no. You can't. Now, I'm just at a session where I know the CFO of this system was in my session. And we're a healthcare financial management group, right? And here is an organization refusing to take the only money that I'm going to owe them out of my own pocket, $20. The excuse was I'm too new in their system, so it couldn't be applied appropriately. And I said, well, it's $20, right? $20 at the end of the day. If you send me a statement, you have no money as a system, right? That $20 is spent in man hours and even the cost of the postage and the letters. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, but we can't. And And I said, are you serious? Like, your CFO is honestly at this conference I'm going to go back to. I don't think they'll be very pleased. And she's like, I'm sorry, we just can't take it. We have to mail you a statement. So I leave, not paying my $20 copay. When do you think I finally get my statement? Yeah, it was about 5 months. I get it. And I don't just get one statement. Guess what I get? I get two. And when I get the statement, I'm just going to put it up here. I did redact anything that was critical so you guys couldn't see. But here's my statement. How much is due? I don't know if you guys can see here, but there's my $20 that's due. And I would have been fine with this. I'm laughing a little bit that they sent me two because now they're really out of money for my 20 bucks, right? But what ticked me off was this phrase on this thing, which says what? Your copay was not paid at time of service, right? After I begged them to take my copay. So a little frustrated, I look at the statement and there is only an option to cut off the little strip at the bottom, fill out a check, find a stamp and an envelope, and mail it in. Or I can call on my lunch hour. There's no electronic portal, anything to go into. So I decide to call. I get the very first, I am first in line, I'm first in the queue. And guess how long I'm first in the queue? 45 minutes. I went ahead and I timed. 45 minutes I sat there. I finally get the lady. She was super nice. She took my payment. And then I felt like I needed to provide feedback. So I said, hey, can I just share a little thought with you? I tried to pay. Why couldn't you just take my payment? And she's like, well, that's weird that we didn't take your payment, right? And then I also sat online for 45 minutes. Can you? And she's like, well, I just want you to know that I opened up a ticket and will be mailing you, I'm going to mail you, right, a result from this ticket that you opened up of this complaint. And I said, well, please don't mail me. Like, you've already spent enough money, so please don't mail me. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry, that's our policy. We have to mail it out. And also, I'm going to be mailing a separate receipt for my payment. And I said, oh my goodness, this poor healthcare system, which, by the way, had been in the news for not having enough money that they were going to have to lay off people, right? So I go back. Sure enough, I get my letters from them. I get my receipt, and I also get my letter of my complaint. And then I get a phone call from the CFO because it got escalated to her. She wanted to speak to me. At this point, you guys, how much money has this healthcare system spent? Right? And at the end of the day, as I was going back and looking at all of this, this really came down to, this isn't a process problem. Yeah, it is. But it came down to a leadership problem. Where was leadership understanding that this was going on the entire time? They didn't even know. She was surprised that they weren't doing this, the CFO. So where are we in healthcare? It was funny. How many people were at ANI? Anybody have the privilege? It's really cool. We had a presenter called Z-Dog. That's his name. He's a doctor. And he was just sharing that we, as leaders in healthcare, are a little bit too complacent. We get told what to do, so we just do it instead of taking the initiative and leading. And he really encouraged us to do a little bit more and take that initiative and start leading. So I just wanted to share my experience to prove to, again, how important it is. And some things that I learned, obviously, it was after 3 months that I got my statement. It just was, I was very dissatisfied at the end of the day. Anyway, it all leads back to what? Leadership, right? Our ability to lead and lead the right way. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about leadership magic and what that means. So today we're going to examine what inspiring leadership is, clarify how winning teams really impact an organization. We know that, but we're going to examine it anyway. I'm going to give you 7 elements that lead to leadership magic. If you're doing it, your teams will see you as remarkable leaders. I'm going to share the secret also, if you guys are really good, of how that leadership actually controls outcomes. And I'm not making that up. That's a real thing. And we're going to have a little bit of fun, too. We're going to do some activities along the way. You guys ready? Are the people online ready? I think they are. All right, here we go. Into leadership magic. So the question for all of you, how many people are leaders in their organization that are here today? Go ahead, raise your hand. I would argue that everyone is. In some way, you lead something. You either lead your project, you lead the things that you're doing, and you lead other people. So why were you chosen? When they did that interview, what was the reason that they looked at you and said, oh, I need you? What's your name? Oh, Maddie. Why did they need you? What were they hoping? As you came on as a leader, what was your organization hoping? Yeah, that you'd follow through and that you would inspire those that you're meant to lead. In fact, they're hoping that you'll produce this, right? A winning team at the end of the day. By definition, this is not that scary, you guys. A winning team, I looked it up. So winning means what? To be successful, victorious. And team means what? Does team mean just Maddie? No, it doesn't, right? Team means a group of people. So really, at the end of the day, what they're hoping for is a group of people that are going to come together and be successful at accomplishing the goal, becoming that winning team. And that's what we're going for. How many people have ever been on a non-winning team? Anybody? Yeah, what's your experience? Did you enjoy that? Not as much, yeah. Well, you're familiar with Hood to Coast. It's called the granddaddy of all the relay races. It happens out in Oregon. It starts up at the top of Mount Hood. It's a 199-mile relay, actually. It starts up at the top of Mount Hood, and it goes all the way to Seaside, Oregon. It's pretty cool. You have 12 people on your team, and you're exchanging a little strap all the way along. Each member has to run 3 different races, basically, during the 24-hour period that you're out there running. And eventually you reach there and you celebrate, and it's usually a really fun time by the time you reach there, right? You're very thankful for those porta potties along the way as well, just FYI. Well, I was invited a couple of years ago to join a team that I didn't know, and I had already run it over 11 times. So I had a little bit of experience, and I was sharing this other team, this is their first time. And so I met with the leader of that team. I won't say who it is, but here's a picture of our team. By the way, these are fake smiles at the end, and it'll lead into the whole point of a winning team. So when you get together, usually there's 2 vans so that 6 people in each van. As adults, we're a little big, right? We're not little children. We bring a lot of equipment with us as well. So we have to cram into these vans, drive along to the next route, and of course we're doing this exchange along the way between vans and of course between individuals. When I get there, instead of having a van, there is a Honda Pilot sitting out there for us to ride in. Now, Honda Pilots are big, but 6 adults with sleeping bags and all of their equipment, how well do they fit into a Honda Pilot? Anybody? Yeah, it was tight. We were all in there. I'm like, oh, this is going to be miserable, because we're going to stink too, right? We're going to run, and then we're going to get back in. It's going to be horrible. And of course, the leader had been told that this was not a good idea, but still showed up with the Honda Pilot because they felt like it was the right choice. It was also, just so you guys know, the hottest day ever recorded for Hood to Coast. So if anyone's ever run in the heat, it's miserable. If you've ever run in the heat on asphalt, what happens? Anybody know? It radiates, it comes back, and it's just horrible. So we knew that we were going to really need water for our team. So all the way up there, I am trying to be nice, and I'm pointing out to the leader, hey, why don't we stop here for one of our runners and we can give them some water? And the individual is not even acknowledging that I'm speaking. So the race starts, our runners are on the road. We hit some of those points where we should stop and give them water, and this individual drives right past it to the next exchange, just ignoring everything. So our runners would come in and they'd be like, I was dying, why didn't you guys stop and give me some water? And I'm like, we're trying, we'll try to do it next time. Needless to say, over and over and over again, this individual refused to stop, refused to help the people, even when they were on their leg, refused water. It was very interesting. So what do you think happened to the team as we're going along? Do you think we're having a great time? No, we're miserable. Everyone wants off, and people are actually talking out loud how they'll never run with this team again, with that individual in the car with us, right? And at the end of the day, we ended up just not having a great time. Fortunately, right towards the end, this individual said, well, maybe we should pull over and give a little water to somebody. It almost took 24 hours for them to change. And I learned a couple of things, and I just wanted to share it with you, and that is, does one person make the difference? This leader made all the difference for all 12 of us. It made it miserable, right? I also learned that patience is a virtue. People don't change immediately, do they? It took about 24 hours before this individual would even consider doing the kindest little thing. And also, we learned that if a team is not winning, what happens to the team? People jump. How much does it cost your organization to hire a new individual? Is it cheap? No, it's really, really expensive, and all of that knowledge walks out the door with them. And so great leadership truly does matter. It really does at the end of the day. Your leadership matters. And I want to talk a little bit about leadership itself, some of the statistics that are out there on it. So understanding leadership and the challenges, but we just want to do a quick reality check on this. First of all, when you talk, these are surveys that came back, you know, everyone thinks it's about pay. My friends are happy because we're paying them appropriately, but look where base pay showed up in all of the surveys that came back. Only 65% of the employees said that was an important factor in what they were doing. What was number one? What did 100% of all the people say? Can you see that? Right? They just wanted to be acknowledged. They wanted to be treated with respect every single day. That is a leadership thing. That is not anything that the system can do. That comes back to an individual leader treating them with respect. That is not being treated by respect by their peers, by the way. That came from leadership. Also, this is an interesting note. Did you see this survey down here at the bottom? Can you read that? It said that people actually in the organization, after being surveyed, paid attention to what? Were they paying attention to the goals and the mission and vision that's given to them by their healthcare system? No. They were paying attention to what? They perform according to what their immediate boss is paying attention to. So if the immediate boss is paying attention to their, online football league, guess what everyone's paying attention to? That's just the way it works. So just a very interesting study. Also, I love this. It says, as far as employee engagement, they said that really only 29% show up really engaged at work every single day. There's 54% that are somewhat engaged. And then, of course, we have 17% of employees that are actually saying, hey, I show up and I'm not engaged at all when I'm there. Is that interesting? They're actually not even engaged. So really, at the end of the day, leadership feels a little bit like this, doesn't it? Right? Just a little bit weight sometimes that we feel like we're carrying around. And because of that, it's sometimes not that fun for us. So the magic of real leadership, I love this quote. It's from Dwight D. Eisenhower. He said, leadership is really the art of getting someone to do something you want done because they want to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about today and how we can get there. A couple of other things. Managers versus leaders. Is there a difference between those two other than spelling? Yeah, there is, right? So managers are those individuals that influence based on their limited ability, just on the project that's really going on. But leaders are those who actually inspire and can move beyond even their own realm to move their people into new areas. Also, as we looked at some of the different traits that they said were important in leaders, these are some of those that are up there. If you guys want to look at those, you can self-evaluate right now. Are those me? Are those my traits that I have, right? Are you persistent, self-confident? You tolerate stress well, some of those things. Also, there are different leadership styles I just want to point out. There's the autocratic style. That's when we say you do it or you get fired kind of environment, or you do it and you get gene stays or whatever it is, some type of reward. And then there's the democratic style, which is the more powerful. And the democratic style is where you involve your team to come up with some of those decisions. Now, both are important, true. But sometimes you just have to say that we have to get it done. So you're going to use both, but just know that those are styles that are out there in leadership and are important as you go to lead. There's also transactional versus transformational. Again, that going back to promise of rewards versus, hey, this is our mission, we can do it. Those are important. But I love this slide, and this comes back to what people are looking for in their leaders. And if you look at the top two elements up there, it comes down to personal humility and professional will. Under personal humility, it's all about, of course, not taking credit when the credit really isn't yours, but sharing it with the team. And then professional will is just having that clear vision of where you want to go, that drive to get things done. So I want to talk about 7 elements that when we do, it creates these behaviors right here. And those 7 elements we're going to go through right now. These are the ones that inspire that behavior, which in return will actually inspire our teams. So the element number 1, you guys, is live life looking forward. I love this. You can't start the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one. How many of you have ever been in a meeting? You're in the middle of the meeting, and the very first thing, you start talking about an issue that came up, and everyone wants to know who to crucify. Does that ever happen? Anybody? And then you spend the next 40 minutes of your hour meeting talking about how terrible that individual is. Why did that happen? Now, even though it's nice to know what went wrong, sometimes we call that lane, right? The real power is when we're able to move forward, live life looking forward. An interesting study that came out of Stanford, they showed that 85% of most organizations' time is actually spent discussing what went wrong versus about discussing things that they could do to fix it and to move forward. That's kind of a scary figure, actually, if you think about it. Just the amount of time that we waste as organizations trying to figure out who to blame versus how to move forward. So this is about living life looking forward. In fact, I found this clip and I just thought, how interesting. How many of you here would be willing to drive from McCall back to Boise looking through your rearview mirror? Anybody? I drove it looking forward. I was terrified, right? So can you imagine if you were actually doing this backwards? But sometimes this is what we do in organizations. We get into a room and we look totally backwards and we're not looking forwards at all, and we're still trying to move the organization forward. So step number one, element of a great leader, is always to do what? Live life looking where? Forward, not spending that on the back. Remember this too, happy teams have dreams to fulfill. They're not happy when they're getting blamed, but they're happy, and studies have shown they're 80% more successful when they're focused on those goals that are moving forward, not focused on what they did wrong, but focused on where they should go. So that's a great one. Personal experience, when I was working for Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I was put in charge of this race. We were calling it Sharpen the Saw, which is the 7th habit. It was kind of cool. I knew that a lot of people were going to be showing up as well. And I knew that our finish area was really close to the road that I drove every single day. And this road, just so you guys know, it was just 2 lanes, one coming one way, one going the other. It was pretty straight, but it went up over a little bridge, and then it curved a little bit at the bottom of that bridge. I drove it every day, so I knew it very well. I also knew that when I was on top of that bridge, I could look over to my right, and I could see the finish area. And I just wanted to make sure, because our registration was so high, that we would have plenty of space for everyone at the end. So I am driving along. It's not really fast. It's only like 35 miles per hour. I get to the top of the bridge. I look over, and it's going to be perfect. Like, we have so much room. I'm very excited. The next thing I know, my car goes up in the air. I slam on my brakes. I'm stopped, and guess where I'm at? A little embarrassing. I'm actually sitting on the back of a flatbed truck. So they had just unloaded this big Caterpillar thing. They were doing a construction project. They had parked it at the bottom of the bridge. So when I was at the top, I couldn't see that it was down, and they put it right in the middle of the 2 lanes. So fortunately, the ramp was down, right? Unfortunately, as I'm sitting on the top of this flatbed truck, I hear applause. And it's all the construction workers, and they're cheering me on for my stupidity, right? And then I had to back off. I tore all the struts in my car. I had to get a new car. It was horrible. But why did it happen? Where was I looking? I was looking back. I was not looking forward. And so I just wanted to share that as an experience. Step number 1, element number 1, do what again? Live life looking forward. Excellent. The second leadership element I wanted to share is create and maintain an action plan. Incredible leaders know where they want to go, and they have a plan on how they're going to get there. That comes from Roger Merrill, author of First Things First. A personal story on that, I was actually down at LTC. Anyone know what that is for HFMA? It's a leadership training conference that happens every year. And I happened to be in California, Anaheim. They were holding it. This is a few years back. Now, it's always fun to be around other people. And I had met a gentleman, and he goes, you know, it'd be really fun to go tonight and do karaoke. There's a really cool place to do karaoke. And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. Let's go ahead and do that. Well, there were a group of people that got together who wanted to go. We decided to meet at 7 o'clock in the lobby. We get there, and of course, we decided not to do an Uber. We went out walking to get there. So we're walking, and I'm pretty good at judging, because I run. I'm pretty good at judging how far I've gone. So I know that we've gone at least a mile, right? And so after we've walked for a mile already, I asked the guy who had the idea, I said, hey, where is this place at? He goes, oh, I don't know. So all of us are following someone who doesn't know at all. We end up never getting there. And we do about 3 miles of walking that night, and we get back with nothing to show. Again, just not having that vision, not having that plan, created a real issue for us. It was an idea, but it wasn't a true plan. So real leaders have that, and they know how to get there. These are the benefits, by the way, of having an action plan. You get clarity, focus, efficiency, dreams, increased self-confidence, of course, getting those results at the end of the day. Now, we're very good in the United States. Every year it comes January, and what do? We set our New Year's resolution. So we like a plan. And then, of course, 5 minutes later, what are we doing with that plan? Rewriting it, redoing it, right? But something interesting that came out, research showed that the people who actually wrote those plans down and kept it where it was visible were 80% more likely to accomplish that. So when you go as a leader to create this action plan, it's not enough just to have it, store it on your computer somewhere. It needs to be visible where you personally can see that every single day so that you can move forward. So goals do need to be written down to be more successful. Also, just a reminder, sometimes we get really lofty as leaders in the goals that we want to do. So we put together this great plan, but there's so much to it that there's no way anyone could ever get it done. I ran across this book. I recommend it. It's really cool. It's called Just One Thing. If you guys want to pick it up, it's a great read. The Cliff Notes of that is basically every day when you wake up, ask, what's that one thing that I can do today that would have the greatest impact on my organization? He says that by doing that, we actually get to work and we're only focused on one thing. And we can do one thing in a day, but we can't do 20 things in a day. So as you go to put those plans together, think a little bit smaller, right? What are those elements that you could accomplish every single day? And this is what it looks like when we are focused, because that's what creates that focus. We're gonna try our audio right now, and we're gonna play a clip for you. For those of you who are watching online, the camera is gonna zoom in so that you can see the screen. Yeah. So I love this clip because obviously he's very focused, but he's also focused on a leader, right? That leader, Rocky, is leading him through. When we as leaders are focused, our teams will also be focused and moving towards that direction. I also want to show you a quick clip on the benefits of having an action plan. This is brought to you today by Mountain Dew. So for those of you online who may not have been able to see what the words were on the bottom, he said, that's fast, and then he burps, but not fast enough. He had actually drank that entire can in that moment. So one thing that I like about this is what we as leaders know. It's great. So first of all, did this guy have an action plan? What do you want to be? The best hand slapper. He actually put himself in a situation where he could accomplish that. And did he accomplish it? He became a great hand slapper. And then he learned what we all learn, and that is, don't be satisfied as you hit some of those goals. We know that there's always something better that we can do in the future. So keep pushing yourself to reach that greatness as well as leaders. Don't be satisfied. On a personal note of this, avoiding being satisfied, it's remarkable that we can continue to learn and grow in about everything that exists out there. I would take a lot of these young men on hiking trips, and if you've ever hiked a lot and you're traveling, you know that sometimes your shoelaces come untied, and I hate that, so I would always double knot my shoes when I was out there. Well, another leader saw me one day. I was trying to get my shoes off, and of course I had all of these shoelaces tied all together really tight, and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'd want to make sure that it doesn't come undone. And he goes, well, why are you doing that? Why don't you just use a soccer tie? Now, does anyone know what a soccer tie is? I didn't know what a soccer tie is. But a soccer tie, actually, when you're doing it, it will not only make sure that you're completely good on your feet, but it also can come undone easily. So, oh yeah, in fact, very good. And so I learned that, yes, with that. For all of you guys, I did bring for you today. So your shoes, when you go to tie them, you can honestly make it so you can just undo them easily. Who would have thought that I could learn something at 45, right? I'm a little bit older than that. But for 45, that I could learn how to tie my shoe again, right? And do it in the right way. To make sure that you guys also are successful with that, I did bring you, for being here today, and you know, some shoelaces that you can practice, because not a lot of people have shoelaces anymore, right? So we'll get those handed out, Bill, if you want to. People along the way. And you can practice this. This is so cool. So the way it works, and I'll show you just quickly. So most people, when you're tying your shoe, you just tie one loop over the other, right? And you're done. Well, if you double loop and pull it tight, then that shoelace will never come undone. Soccer moms figured this out a long time ago, right? But yet when you go to undo it, it will come undone easily for you. So pretty interesting what we learn. Element number 3 that I want to share with you guys as well is the power of gratitude to maintain a positive attitude. And we know as leaders, there are times that we are not going to be facing some very positive things. Is that a true or false statement? Probably true. Probably more true than we want to admit. So gratitude has been proven that when we're grateful for things, it's remarkable what we're able to accomplish. In fact, they recommend that most leaders go and get a gratitude coach. And I know that that sounds really silly, but they actually recommend that we do that just so that we can remain positive in everything that we're doing. So why is this gratitude so important? Well, it is because when we have gratitude, then we actually have a positive attitude. Can you imagine having a negative attitude but really excited about something? It just doesn't work, does it? So we have to have both. These are the benefits, by the way, of having a positive attitude. We're able to influence others, gain interest in their ideas, fulfill goals, and of course, instill that confidence. So it's very important that we have that. So just quickly, if I could have this half of the room say the word 2. See the 2 up there? And this half will split you right down the middle, say 4, okay? So just quickly, 2. Okay, thank you. Now, by definition, I put a number up there, but I'm really talking, when you say the word itself, I'm talking about a preposition. And does anyone know what preposition is? 2, 4, those things that lead into it. And there's power, huge power between these 2 and 4. Now imagine in life, if you as a leader, every time something happened to your group, thought, why is this happening to me? Where's your attitude at that moment? What if you as a leader, though, every time something challenging comes along, you say, this is happening for me, for us? How does that change your attitude when you go to look at things? It's huge, right? Had an experience where I had to get someplace and I only had a limited amount of time, and the road that I had to take had like 20 stoplights on it, right? As I go along, sure enough, I am hitting every single one just as it starts to turn red. So it's taking me forever, and I'm really worried about getting there on time. As I was doing that, I was like, oh, why is this happening to me? I need to get this done. Why is this happening? And then suddenly I had a change of thought, and I thought, well, maybe this is happening to me so I don't get in an accident in the future, right? Suddenly it changed from to for me, and I ended up getting there. I was stress-free by the time I got there, even though I was a little late, and everything was good. So there's huge power when we look at things and remember to stay positive, and one way that we stay positive is to do what? It's happening for me, not to me. Yeah, just wanted to share that. It's really good. All right, just a personal story on gratitude as well. My wife and I, we have a lot of little children, but they're all big now. We decided, this family of 5, that we would take them to Disneyland. And it was very interesting. We have a young daughter. Her name's Katie. She has Down syndrome. It was going to be her first time to be out doing those things as well. We booked through Costco, and so we thought we got a pretty good deal. We show up in the hotel that we show up at. It looks pretty skanky. It doesn't look that great. So I'm a little worried. We have some questionable people that are walking around as well. And so we made a rule with our kids that they were to make sure that they kept the door shut, because we had these suites that kind of combine. Because Katie, even though she doesn't speak that well, she can wander off. And so because our kids were a big family, they were staying in a suite that was adjoining, they had to make sure that their door was always locked. Well, we get there, everyone's really excited. We go to sleep. We wake up the next morning, we're all getting ready to go out to Disneyland. And sure enough, we're looking around and I can't find Katie. Now we're in a building that's pretty tall up. I think we're up on like the 7th floor or something like that. And I said, hey, you guys, can you see Katie? And I look into the kids' room, and guess what's open? The door. They had left the door unlocked. So our young daughter had left, and we're in the middle of a building that I think is pretty scary. I don't know if anyone's ever misplaced a child, but it's one of the most frightening things you can ever have happen to you. Your very first instinct is to run. And so that's exactly what my wife did. She started running with our kids through the building, just trying. And she turns to me and she says, stay here in case they call the police, because we're in California, and then do that. And so I'm sitting there, I call the front desk, I say, we've lost our daughter. She can't even speak. She doesn't know how to say who her mom and dad are. And I was giving a description. They called the police, and I sit there for half an hour and nothing. I don't know, as a father, if you guys know what goes through your mind, especially when you can imagine a little girl, right, being lost. I'm having all these horrible moments go through my brain, and then an hour goes by and still no call from anybody. Finally, after an hour, the phone rings, and it's the front desk, and they go, Mr. Johnson, we found your daughter. And I said, oh, thank goodness. Where was she? Well, one of those people that was questionable had seen her wandering around on the bottom floor and had grabbed her hand and held her hand. Oh, sorry. Until someone could be there. So I went from being really negative on those people that were there to suddenly having so much gratitude and thanks. And then as I was walking through that hotel, they weren't scary people to me. They were people that I honestly wanted to get to know. So the power of gratitude is huge, and our ability to change our attitudes and focus us in a direction that's really great. So please remember also to be, as leaders, grateful. Show that gratitude along the way. If you guys are curious what gratitude looks like, I ran across this clip and I wanted to share it with you.
You feel alive? I feel happy with myself. I feel happy with myself too. What do you got, any words of wisdom? What about for all the other kids trying to learn how to ride your bike? Can you say anything to them? thumbs up. All right.
Now, how cool would that be for us as leaders if we were faced with some challenges and we're going to be faced with it, but instead of complaining or just thinking, oh, this is so hard, right? Dang, they're making changes to Medicare again. I'm going to have to figure out about all this stuff. But what if we just stayed positive, right? And said, we can do this. Thumbs up, everybody. The difference is huge. Also, element number 4 of really great magical leadership is to live in reality. The only way to live a stable, healthy, and fruitful life is to live in reality. Is that true or false? It's pretty true, right? Because our brains are pretty powerful. And when we're not living in reality, whatever we're thinking becomes our reality. So we want to make sure we're living in something great. Now, it's a pretty big challenge in the world that we're in today to live in reality, because in today's world, relationships are based off of what? A swipe. I want to get rid of somebody I'm friends with on Facebook. I just unfriend them. Boom, done, right? It's not that easy when we're leading people. Apps also change perception. So I don't know. I went ahead and took these pictures. Lisa was kind enough to do one. I took one of me. This is me, right? But I look like a different person. That's Lisa, by the way. That's what she would look like as a dude. So that's pretty cool, right? But that's the danger that we're in with technology today, is that it also changes our perception, and it doesn't allow us to always live in reality. So we want to make sure as leaders, even with all this great technology, that we are striving to avoid the fake news that's coming to us and try to dig through the stuff and find out who we're really dealing with and what we're dealing with. So in order to do that, we have to avoid stories. And are we pretty good at stories as human beings? If you look in history, even from the earliest individual, there are writings and drawings, and we just love telling stories over and over and over again. Now, those stories, if you have any of them, do they stay small or do they get big? They get big, don't they? So this is what it looks like in the workplace, right? I'm really excited one day. I want to speak with Maddie. I have this great thing I'm going to tell her the next day I come into work. What I don't know is that Maddie's really busy working on a presentation, and she's so focused on it that when I come in and I say, hi, Maddie, she looks up, a little confused because she's so focused on her thing. She somehow gets an eyelash in her eye, and so she does this to me, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she goes right back to working because she's so focused on what she's doing. So I'm really good friends with Sam over here, right? I'm like, Sam, guess what happened? I came into work, I'm so excited, I just wanted to say hi to Maddie, and she did this to me, right? She hates me, and I don't know why she hates me. I don't know what I did, right? And Sam's really good friends with Sean. Oh, that's a good name. Jadon. That's okay, awesome name, by the way. With Jadon, he's like, guess what? Maddie hates Jeff. And the next thing, what's happening in the organization, right? Does it happen that way? All the time. These stories are so dangerous. We as leaders get sucked into the stories too, because Jeff comes to the leader and says, Maddie hates me. I don't even know what I did wrong. And the next thing, we're digging through all this stuff. So how do we move from these stories into reality? How do we as leaders stay in reality? We're fortunate. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Cy Wakeman. I don't know if she's ever spoken here, but really amazing speaker. This is what her focus is, in living in reality. And so this is her recommendation. When we're faced with these stories, make sure that you write the story down, but don't write it in an email that can be sent, okay? But make sure that you write it down. So write down everything you're hearing, the frustration, the swear words, everything. Then go through, and you must scribble out everything that cannot be supported 100% by fact, okay? Then reread the story and make your decisions. So that's how we as leaders stay in the reality mode, and we don't get sucked into the other ones. Very powerful, very real. Practice living in that reality. Also, leadership element number 5, the one person difference. Do you believe that one person makes the difference in your organization? Anyone? So without Maddie, I don't even know who you work for, sorry.
CBI.
Yeah, so CBI is screwed without Maddie. Is that true? Yeah, she was like, yeah. That's funny. And a lot of people aren't sure. Well, my daughter was working in a college town, and she was working at Taco Bell, and Taco Bells are busy, right? And she was working the drive-thru, and there was a gentleman who came through, had ordered a $1 burrito. He comes through to pay, and she goes, that'll be $1. And he goes, well, how much is the order in the car behind me? Which was something like 35 bucks. That's a lot of food at Taco Bell, by the way. But it's 35 bucks, right? And he goes, well, you know what? I want to pay it. And she goes, are you serious? And he goes, yeah, I want to pay it. So he pays it. These college students come up to the window, and she goes, it's your lucky day because the guy in front of you paid. And they're like, that is so cool. Can we pay for the car behind us? She goes, Dad, I watched the clock for 1 hour. Every car paid for the car behind them. And then finally a gentleman drove through and went, ooh, thanks, right? And he drove off, getting his order. So did one person start it? Did one person end it? Does one person make the difference? I think as leaders, if we don't realize that every individual on our team makes the difference to change our organization, that's where we start to fail. So please make sure that as you're leading, you show and you remember the power of one to truly change what's going on. I ran across another clip, and this clip doesn't have great quality, but it's great. It has great content. It's not very long, so I wanted to share it with you. In the power of one to truly change an organization, change the world. Yeah. So as we look back in history, we know the power of one. We see it all the time. I think sometimes we forget when we get back into our organizations that every individual has that same power to change the course of our organization and what they're doing. And of course, that's why leadership becomes so important, because if we're there to lead that, then we can lead it in the right direction versus leading it if perhaps it's going in the wrong direction. So leadership element number 6. Is your leadership creating agents or objects? This is a big question of you, of all of us actually. An object represents something that's passive, that doesn't do much, right, until it's told to do it, whereas an agent represents an active element in the system. So is your leadership style one that's telling your individuals that they must go through you for everything? Are they fearful of making a decision because if they don't connect with you before, they'll get in trouble? Or is your leadership style one where you're raising people up, allowing them to be creative, allowing them to take some of those risks that aren't too dangerous, right, on their own, to help them grow as well? So again, as you look at this, environment is agent versus object. Where this one, object is waiting before it acts, because I have to check with the boss, right? Or the agent is sensing on their own, making some of those decisions, having a little bit of flexibility to make some movement along the way. So a personal experience on this agent versus an object, sometimes it sneaks up on us and we don't even mean to. I was asked by another group to help them, Boy Scouts actually in our area. They wanted to do a run. And I had, of course, hosted a couple of runs before. And so I got together, I said, sure, I'll give you some feedback on how it's done. I joined this meeting, there's a whole bunch of people there. They're like, what do we do? And I said, well, this is what we did. And so I started answering questions for them. Well, by meeting number 2, I suddenly realized that everyone's coming to me, asking me stuff. They're starting to email me everything. And I had only shown up to be kind of a consultant, right? Well, after about a month into it, I could not stop people from coming to me. And I actually ended up having to lead the entire thing, which I did not want to do. I did not have time to own it, but I ended up owning it because I didn't realize along the way I was creating objects. I wasn't asking their opinion. as a consultant on, I was telling them the answers, right? Every single time. And because of that, guess what? It was a horrible leadership experience for me. I ended up doing everything, touching everything to get it done. Even though I can look back and say, ooh, we did it, that's not a fun place to be. So the question for us is, again, are we creating agents or are we creating objects out of things at the end of the day? Great leaders, again, don't solve it, coach it. Is there a difference between solving and coaching, telling and coaching? There's a huge difference. And the benefits of coaching, by the way, is just generating that improvement in individuals. So this is where, again, creating agents, we're coaching, we're not telling people what to do. Along this, I ran across this clip. Many of you, hopefully, I think we're old enough in the room, we might know what this is. If you don't, we're going to share in a moment anyway. But this is clip number one. Tell me if you remember this moment in our history. Does anyone know what this moment's called? Miracle, right? Miracle on Ice, right? It's called Miracle on Ice. Why was it a miracle? The United States had never beat Russia. No one ever beat Russia in any ice, in any hockey game. They always sent their professionals. Back then, the United States would not allow professional people to go to the Olympics, right? So we just sent our college kids off to do it. So this was truly a miracle moment. Now, this was not the championship game, by the way. This was the semifinal game, and they actually knocked the Russians out. Now, a lot of people don't know why this was such a powerful moment or why this moment was actually created. But it was created because of leadership. And if you talk to any of the players that were on the team, they had no faith. They had been beaten by the Russians several times, even going into this, playing over there in the warm-up games. And so they didn't have a lot of confidence. But there was a moment that happened with their leader, a magical moment just before. It was recreated in a movie. It was actually, the speech is done by Mel Brooks, the coach himself, played by an actor here. But I'm going to show you what happened in that moment when it became about coaching versus telling people what to do, okay?
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you earned here tonight. One team. If we play them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world. You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. And you were meant to to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Isn't that cool? So that's coaching, right? Coaching with passion. Could you imagine if we showed up in our organizations and we're like, you were meant to be, you were born to be patient financial service representatives, right? I'm sick and tired of hearing about the nurses. Screw them, right? Go out there and take it, right? Wouldn't that be great? There you are. That's your coaching moment with your team, inspiring them to do the best. And again, this is all about creating agents, not objects. Remember to praise the effort, not the outcome in the proper coaching. And again, we're going through that. So I really want you to remember this principle, so much so that I brought you something that I think is pretty cool so that you'll remember to create what? Agents, not objects. For everyone here today and anyone online who would like to receive this, by the way, you just need to send us your email or your address and we will send you a copy. But if you want to come help me, get these all handed out. I have for you guys, these are really cool. They're taped up here, but I'll just show you quickly. I'll just open them up and everyone gets a pair. So I'm super excited. I'd really like to take a picture at the end too. But these are spy glasses. So these spy glasses are pretty cool because when you go to put them on, right, and you're wearing them, you can actually see people in your peripheral because it's got little things on the side. So we're really excited to have this. You guys will all look like agents, by the way, by the time you get done. And again, this is to remind you to do what? Create agents. There we go. They're pretty cool. So we have some for everybody. We have plenty. We're going to get those handed out right now. See, it was worth even being here because you guys got your little glasses, right? Okay, thanks. If you want to help, Sam, thanks. Yeah, you guys can use it for your video when you're creating. Oh, there's the clicker. We have a few more here too, just make sure everyone has enough. Did you get some? Did everyone get some? You already did? Did everyone get a pair? All right. Very cool. Again, the point of these aren't just to make you look cool, because you guys do look cool with them on, right? But the goal is actually to help you remember to create what? Agents, not objects at the end of the day. Very good. All right, the final element of true magical leadership is this right here. Be present to be effective. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present. And that came from Buddha. You're going to hear a lot of people talk about mindfulness nowadays. Seems to be the phrase that's up there. The problem that I have with the term mindfulness isn't what we interpret it to be, but more the fact that we're focusing too much here. See, when we go to be present, it's not just about being in our mind and what we think. It's about paying attention to every aspect, to the emotional side as well, right? To maybe the spiritual, whatever it is that's going on around us. Being present is that. It's a little bit more than just being stuck up here in our minds, being mindful. So we want to make sure that we are truly being present. So what does it mean to be present? If I were to ask you to be present as a leader, what am I asking you to do? Yeah, listen at a different level, right, than we've ever listened before. And there's a big challenge for us today in our world that we live in. I watch leader after leader. I'll go to organizations, and sure enough, as a leader, most people end up getting a cool thing. It's called an office, right? And I'll watch those leaders walk in, wave to their employees, and go into their room. They go into their room, they start working on those super important emails, right, that are somehow going to change the world, or maybe their Excel document that's so important. Meanwhile, what's happening with the people they're supposed to lead? Where are they at? They're out there. What message has just been sent? There's either two: I don't care enough about you to be present in your life, or you're so perfect I don't have to be present in your life, right? Either one. But also, I'll watch the next thing happen, and that's where, what's your name? I'm sorry. Reichel? Is that, boy, they're really cool names here in Idaho, huh? So we're having a great conversation, and suddenly something vibrates in my pocket. What is it? It's my cell phone, right? And what do? Middle of conversation, as a leader, and I see this all the time, what do? Pick it up. As soon as I put my cell phone in front of Reichel, what did I just say to him? Without saying anything, what was the nonverbal communication? Yeah, this is way more important than you. And it's usually just my update to the next meeting that I have to get to as a leader, right? Or maybe my sports update, which team is winning along the way, right? And this is a huge danger in the world that we live in today. It's huge, you guys. So what do I mean about being present as a leader? I mean, really engaging at a level that we tend to not do. We see it so often that we start to mimic other leaders in our organization doing the same thing, looking busy so that we look like a leader, going to so many meetings that we honestly have no time ever to be present in the lives of the people that we're supposed to lead. How different would it be if we actually said, I'm sorry, I can't go to that meeting today because I need to be with the people that you asked me to lead. Boy, wouldn't that be an eye-opener for people, right, in the organization? But it would be powerful, and those are the things that change organizations. So when I ask you to be present, this last element, this is the one that really changes and transforms our ability to really be magical leaders. It's our ability to stop and be in the moment with somebody, and not just say that we're in the moment or pretend like we're in the moment, right? But we're more concerned about what's vibrating in our pocket, but truly to be present in that moment. So we're going to skip this due to time, but I just want to share a personal experience. This is my daughter, Katie, that I was telling you about before. She has Down syndrome. Well, something about her is she's very tactile. So she does not like certain materials. Now, as a parent, we are technically her leaders, you would call that, right? My wife knows that she doesn't like this, but Katie was going to be in an Easter program, and my wife really wanted her to look cute. So she found this dress, it was adorable, and she's like, oh, she's going to wear it. And she put it on Katie, and Katie goes, I don't like it. And I said, well, you better take that off her because she's going to just complain the whole time. She's like, no, she looks so cute, she's just going to wear it. So Katie goes into the program. She's sitting in front of the entire congregation, right? Now she's a little short, so even when her teacher, who was sitting right next to her, was sitting, Katie standing up is the same level. So the teacher wasn't really noticing any difference there. But we look up halfway through the program, and our daughter is not wearing any clothing, right? So as a parent, this is a horrible moment, especially at a church, right, where your child's naked up there on the thing. So I'm slipping down into the pew, and I'm nudging my wife, and I'm like, oh my goodness, do something, take care of it. She's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, just do anything, right? Like, go up, put the clothing back on her. And not only is she standing without anything, and she's younger, obviously, at this age, so it's pretty innocent, but she's also doing this, right, just standing there. Teacher's not noticing anything because same level. Finally, my wife gets the teacher's attention. She turns like this and she's all startled, you know, she's putting clothing. But why did it happen? Did it need to happen? We knew as leaders, right? We weren't really present. We were more focused on what our needs were as parents, what we were concerned about versus the individual. And that's what happens when we're truly not present. So the benefits of being present as a professional is it helps us avoid pettiness, creates environments of care, builds trust, and you guys, that's super important, generates teamwork, encourages positive behavior, and allows goals to be more easily achieved. So there's huge power in that. Also, I just want to remind you, internal policies, they're super cool, and I know we get together and we write them all up and we put them online, but they don't lead. They're just guides that are out there. And I will hear organizations over and over and say, well, it was written in our policy, I don't know why they didn't do it. Well, have you ever seen a policy jump off, run over and tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, don't do that? It doesn't happen, does it? It's our responsibility as a leader to be present, to make sure that our staff and our people understand what those policies are. So don't be satisfied just because you created policies and wrote them down. Again, this is about being a leader, being present. Tips to being present: allow that person to take center stage. If you do that, that's powerful, right? Imagine what it's like to walk in their shoes. And then last, tell yourself that what they have to share will change your life. If you do those things, you can stop all of the other stuff going on. You can truly be present in an individual's life. Remember, this is about reinforcement versus enforcement. So enforcement comes from our wonderful police. You guys love them. Do you love when they turn their lights on behind you? Yeah, it's great, right? We hate that moment, but they're enforcing the law. We often, because we're not present as leaders, end up in this enforcement mode. So I'm over here and I'm working with, what's your name? Erico. And I really have never been present in her life because I just gave her this project I wanted to work on. And then I'm like, oh, I better follow up with Erico, see where we're at, because we've got to get that done, right? So I set up an appointment. You get this little schedule thing. You know you're going to come into my office. She comes into my office. She goes to share her project she's been working on. And I look at it and I go, oh, Erico, this is not what we wanted. At that moment, what's my relationship with Erico? Is it good? No. What's she going to tell everybody else out there? What's she going to tell other staff? That I'm a great leader? No, she's going to say I'm a crappy leader, right? Now, that's bad, but what am I doing? I'm enforcing. How different would it be if I was actually present every once in a while in Erico's life, and I'm walking by and she says the perfect thing that we need her to say, and I hear it, and I go, oh my goodness, Erico, thank you for saying that. That's exactly what we want shared with the patient, right? At that moment, what's my relationship with Erico? It's good, right? Hopefully better? Yeah, okay. But that only happens if we choose to be present, you guys. And I know we can justify a million times why we can't be present. And I know that we can't be 100% present. And this is not about micromanagement, by the way. This is just about choosing to be more engaged with those people that we're supposed to lead. So try to go into that reinforcement. Being present helps leaders also avoid this. I call this hawk leadership. You familiar with it? It's when a leader isn't present, so they sit up there on their perch, they give commands, right? And then when their team's not doing what they want, they swoop down off of the perch, right? They make their kill. They make sure to take out the people who aren't doing exactly what they want, and then they fly away back onto their perch or their office, disappearing, feeling like they made everything better. If we choose to be present, we avoid this. And by the way, this destroys teams. And it really does destroy organizations as well. So please don't choose hawk leadership as your style of leadership at the end of the day. Also, being present allows us personally to have a little free time. How many of you have too much on your plates every single day? Anybody? It's a challenge that we have in the world that we're in today. Too many Twitter accounts, Facebook, everything we have to update, plus we have to get our jobs done, right? So at the end of the day, if we choose to be present, and suddenly Sam comes to me and I'm leading Sam, and he goes, hey, I just need 5 minutes of your time, I can honestly tell myself, if I choose to be present, that my 1,000 emails aren't important. Because at that moment, it's just Sam. What a gift, right, to yourself as a leader to not be worried about everything else, just be worried about one thing. Make that count. So just summarizing these 7 elements of leadership that we talked about, let's go over them just quickly. Live life looking where? Forward. They're up here on the board. You don't have to look through your notes, but yeah, live life. Number 2, create. They're right here. Let's say them together. Come on. Create and maintain an action plan. Awesome. Number 3. And we talked about how that positive attitude, the 4, it's happening for us, not to us, right? Number 4. Yeah, don't live in those stories that are going to get told you as a leader. You have to live in reality. Number 5. Yeah, if we're understanding that every individual on our team is truly that element that's going to change our organization, that changes everything. Number 6. And of course, as we just talked about, number 7, be present, right, in all we're doing. As we do these 7 things, some magical stuff really starts to happen. I was going to do a quick activity. I know that we're short on time, so I'm not going to do the activity. But it's good. You know this time where you stand up together? So if Sam and I were to be back to back, and we were sitting on the floor, could we stand up together? Do you want to try it? Sure. Okay, we'll do it anyway. Maddie, do you want to do it with him? Okay. I'll do it with you. We'll figure this out. Okay, so we stay on the floor. Yeah. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. Yeah, I've never done this. All right. Okay, so push. Oh, perfect. Very good. Thank you. All right. So as a leader, if Sam was my leader, what did he just do? Did he help me? Did he lift me up? Yeah, he did lift me up. And that's what this is all about. Magical leadership is about elevating, making agents, not objects, out of people. And so I want to just recap it again. These are those steps, but what did I put at the bottom? Yeah, it's not a one-time thing. It's something that we have to constantly be doing, these things. Now, this is a final piece. I just want to share this with you of how you can control outcomes with your teams. If you are showing this magical leadership, if you are one that's truly practicing all of these things here, then something magical happens. It's called trust. Because you're doing that, because you're present in their lives, people will trust you. They just naturally will. And when trust is present, we're able to rely on this principle of life. And this principle of life is called the law of expectation. When people trust you, if you set an expectation for them, guess what they'll do? This is real. This is as real as gravity, by the way. People will actually try to achieve, if not exceed, the expectation that you set for them. That's the human nature in us. So this is a real principle. And I promise you, as leaders, if you'll practice this magical leadership, you will be able to set expectations, and people will accomplish those expectations that you have. I ran across one final clip that I wanted to share with you, showing this power of this law of expectation in practice. So this is really cool. Along the way, obviously, someone had practiced magical leadership with the dog too, right? Had built that trust, set an expectation, and you guys just watched that dog accomplish that expectation. I had to watch it twice, but there's something, did anyone notice what the leader was doing during this video? I had to watch it twice to hear it. But if I went back and played it again, what you would hear is you would hear the leader, the owner, saying, go, 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 get it, go, 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 get it, the entire time. So this last piece of the law of expectation is going back to these principles. We can't just say it and expect it to be done just because people trust us. We need to strap on our pom-poms as leaders, right? And we need to be present, and we need to be cheering, and we need to be saying, you can do it, come on, you can do it. When we do that, I promise you, goals that you set for individuals will become reality. It is. As much as breathing and gravity and all those things in our world, it is a real principle. And I just wanted to share that with you as you go out to change the world that you're in. So thank you guys for letting me be with you today. And may the force be with you as you go through. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so the soccer tie is really cool. So what you do is with the soccer tie, normally what we do when we're going to tie, you know how you always make one loop, right? Well, typically a normal tie, we just tie it together once. We just loop it around once. But with a soccer tie, you're going to loop twice. So you're going to, sorry, I'll do it this way. You're going to loop once and then loop one more time before you do the little tie knot like that. Okay? No, it will not come undone. It doesn't matter what you do. You could walk around for 2,000 miles and that thing stays tied. It's really cool. But it also comes untied really easy. So I think I did it right on this one. Works really well on your shoe. Yeah. It doesn't knot up at the end of the day, which is really cool. So soccer ties, who would have thought, right, that you could learn even more, but you can learn something and everything. And then again, you guys, thank you so much. Any additional questions? Does anyone online want their glasses? Okay, we'll make sure that we get those mailed out to you, so you get that. And you guys, thank you. Thanks for being part of the very first live stream from Idaho HFMA. You guys did it. Awesome. Yay. Very cool. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Great. All right, you guys, thank you so much. We look forward to tonight as well. So hopefully you come to have a little bit of fun and get on film. That's all it's all about tonight. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you again, Jeff. We really appreciate that. And like you mentioned, that's a first for us for our Idaho chapter, and that's a huge accomplishment for us to be able to reach out to some of our fellow chapter members that weren't able to make it up here to McCall. Just to let you know, the weather's beautiful, so you are missing out. But hopefully you're enjoying your commute and your desk back in Boise or the rest of Idaho, wherever you're at. So give us just a few minutes. We're going to switch over the computer, and then we'll get going with the next presentation.